Welcome to Emergency Management Associates with Ron Tyler. Ron has been a first responder and in the preparedness arena for years. Since the early 1980s, Ron Tyler has been working to make sure people are prepared for whatever comes their way. He assisted his parents doing survival dinners where they went to church. He has lived in earthquake country, where quite a few large earthquakes hit San Diego and the state of California. Ron Tyler started Emergency Management Associates as a way to prepare people for coming emergencies and disasters. He was a first responder and responded to areas to help serve, rescue, and train people. Ron has set up emergency command posts during fire seasons in the mountains of Southern California and in Colorado. Having been a volunteer fireman and then a police officer, Ron knows what needs to be done and has done it. Ron and his crews have saved many people's lives. Ron has spoken to hundreds of community groups, helped organize preparedness fairs where he has lived. Through his travels, Ron has met hundreds of people and is valued in those communities and continues to work and lecture people on the complex work of emergency/disaster preparedness and emergency management. Ron has spent 24 years in law enforcement and has an extensive background in law enforcement and tactics. Ron's career was spent in homicide, traffic accident investigation, weapons and tactics, and personal/executive protection and emergency management. Ron Tyler has been a missionary for his church and is now a gospel doctrine instructor. With these items safely tucked away, you and your family will have an advantage should an emergency or disaster strike. Water, enough for at least 3 days. Food, ready-to-eat canned food, granola bars, dried fruit, peanut butter. Flashlight, with extra batteries. All essential medications and prescriptions. Medical equipment for conditions, extra pair of eyeglasses, extra batteries for hearing aid, etc. First aid kit. Personal care supplies. Emergency contact information. Copies of important documents, photo ID, medical insurance cards, medication lists, insurance policies. Records of personal property and insurance policies. Masks. Change of clothing, jacket, gloves, hat. Blankets. Remember to subscribe, like, share with your family and friends, and thank you for watching. Mail, rltnspdema@gmail.com, and our address is 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina 28655.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our program tonight. We're starting off a bit late, but we're going to start up this program with the singing of the national anthem by the United States Army Barbershop Quartet. I would ask everybody right now to please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Oh, yeah! Come on, folks, let them know it.
The United States Army Barbershop Quartet singing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. We want to thank all these men who do this. We want to thank our men and women in the military, wherever they might be. I want to thank all of our military worldwide, our allied military, wherever they might be. We ask that the Lord would bless them and protect them and keep them safe, to bring them home to their families after their tours of duty end. We love and appreciate our military. Without our military, even the allied military around the world, we will not be able to do the job that we've been sent here to do. So I want to thank them profusely for all the things that they do. Thank you, gentlemen, in the United States Army, the Marines, the Navy, U.S. Air Force, the Coast Guard, and the United States Space Force. God bless you all, that you might return home to your families in safety after your tours of duty end. Thank you so much for your service, guys and women. We thank you. Folks, I have a lot of things I want to talk about tonight. Specifically, some things that are going to happen tomorrow that all of you need to be aware of. Why do you need to be aware of it? Because it may affect our well-being, each and every one of us. Each and every one of us around the world. I'm serious about this when I say that. What is happening tomorrow is going to affect each and every one of us literally around the world. That's why I'm here today to talk to you about it. I would ask those of you that may leave here soon to stick around until you hear me out. This is very, very important. Your livelihoods could be affected. Our lives as families could be affected. Everything. Okay? Tomorrow morning, at approximately 8:30 to 9 a.m. in the morning, McConnell, who is the Senate Majority Leader, is going to be stepping down. McConnell is putting up 3 people to possibly take his place. The 2 people on the left are bad people. 2 people on the left that he has proposed that would take his place are rhinos. Republican, conservative in name only. Rhinos. Okay? Kentucky stalwart McConnell, who is 82 years old now, has been the GOP leader in the Senate since 2007. Trump and McConnell have viscerally disliked each other. McConnell is booed at Trump's 2024 convention. He was booed. This had become a firestorm. It became a very very well-lit firestorm yesterday because of the great reporting by Benny Johnson on YouTube and over on Rumble. Rightly so. It does deserve to be a huge issue because what happens tomorrow in Washington, D.C. is going to affect all of us. Okay? It's a huge issue involving all Americans coast to coast, north to south. Senator McConnell, in his egocentric world, has wanted to maintain ultimate control of what he wants to accomplish. He doesn't care about anybody else. All else be damned. McConnell also wants to make sure President Trump's agenda will not be accomplished. McConnell and his other rhino Republicans in the Senate do not like President Trump. McConnell wants to hold a vote for the next Senate Majority Leader, under which could be described as under the color of darkness. Under the color of darkness. He wants to hold it in secret. Now, while this does not necessarily mean that it hasn't been done before, it has. But in this case, McConnell wants to hide everything from the public. He does not want anybody to know what's going on. And that vote tomorrow, the senators in the United States Senate will be voting in secret, so no citizen will have any idea what has happened until after it has already been done. McConnell wants 3 men to be up for the vote. First, Senator John Toome on the left-hand side. The South Dakota senator has been McConnell's second in command since the U.S. GOP since 2019. Toome, who is a one-time lobbyist, is seen as a favorite of corporate K Street interests. A favorite of corporate interests. He's been credited with blocking rail safety reforms even after the horrific 2023 derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Blocking safety reforms. Again, this man is evil. This man is evil. Senator John Cornyn is in the middle. Every one of these men are rhinos, except for the one on the right. Senator Cornyn, who would want to also follow in the footsteps of McConnell. Cornyn has been a Texas senator since 2002. Both of these men would be business as usual in the Senate and would not help President Trump to do the will of the people. President Trump was elected under a mandate of the people to work change in our government and in our country. We want to have the senators there to make sure that they do the will of the people. The man on the right is Senator Rick Scott from Florida, a former governor of Florida. Senator Rick Scott has said he will support President Trump and do the will of the people. Rick Scott, like I said, is a former governor of Florida who became a Sunshine State senator in 2019. He released his own conservative policy prescriptions for the chamber, including finishing the border wall, ending debt ceiling increases without a declaration of war. In other words, he would not allow debt ceiling increases unless it was under a declaration of war, meaning that the United States of America was at war, which we are not. So our national debt does not increase like it does under President Biden. Scott has shown some excuse me. And I swallowed something wrong. Senator Scott has shown some shred of backbone. He denounced neo-Nazi activity in Florida last year when almost no one else would, when a rise-up of neo-Nazi Antifa protesters began to happen. along with Palestinian protesters from the Middle East. He denounced it. He and Florida Governor DeSantis were the only ones in Florida that acknowledged it and said, we don't want it to happen, and they took measures to make sure that the Antifa, neo-Nazi, and the Palestinian protests would not continue. Senator Scott on the right-hand side has emerged as a MAGA favorite, Make America Great favorite. He's touted by the likes of Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, and Charlie Kirk. He is connected to President Trump and President Trump's Chief of Staff, Susan Wiles. He told President Trump if he is elected, he will be Trump's yes man. Yes, Senator Scott has been reelected, and he will help President Trump achieve the goals that President Trump has set for this country. He says, I will be doing everything I can to make sure President Trump's agenda gets accomplished. Now, if anyone else is elected that McConnell wants installed to replace him, then President Trump and the citizens of this country will be ill-served. Tonight, we need to ask each and every one of you, and I've already done it myself, we want to ask each and every one of you, even tonight, to call your individual senators. To call your individual senators. You can call the National Switchboard in Washington, D.C., and tell the operator that answers that you want to talk to your senators in your state. And that senator or that switchboard operator will put you through to the senators in your state. When that happens, and you're able to either speak to the senator or his aides, you need to tell those senators to vote for Representative or Senator Scott. Vote for Scott for the Senate Majority Leader. We need Rick Scott in as Majority Leader of the United States Senate. We need to make sure that President Trump has all the support he needs to achieve his agenda, to make America great again, to stop illegal immigration, and make sure each and every one of us are taken care of. Now, I need to tell you something else. I have it on good sources that President Trump is going to give us a stimulus package. Each of us will be getting a stimulus check this year, this coming year, 2025. Because President Trump is going to send these illegals packing back to the countries where they came from. He's going to save all that money that has been appropriated by the Biden administration for the 25 million illegals that have come into this country. He's going to send them packing. He's going to save all that money, and he's going to give a good portion of it back to us, the taxpayers. So, guys, we need to make sure that President Trump has all the support he needs. Please do that. Please do that. Now, besides that, before I get talking about some of President Trump's appointments already, I forgot to show this to you last night. During the past 5 days, yes, conditions have gotten better now, but during the past 5 days, Colorado has been inundated with blizzard conditions. As you can see, one of the meteorologists in Denver, from Denver Television, was up to his waist in snow here. This just doesn't seem like a snowdrift at all. It is not. This is how deep it really was out there. Huge snowstorm. Huge monster snowstorm there in Colorado, and that storm has now passed over the plains of Colorado into the central plains of the United States. So we're going to see that happen as well. We're going to see all that snow going across the United States now. Snow, rain, and sleet. All of us need to be very much aware of it. That storm is going to be raining havoc on all of us during the next few days. Be prepared, guys. Be prepared. Now, one of the other appointments that President Trump has made, his name is Tom Homan. I incorrectly told you last week that another senator from Florida was going to be appointed to the Secretary of Homeland Security. I'm sorry. We incorrectly told you that Tom Homan was going to be the border czar and the director of Homeland Security. That's not the case. Tom Homan that you see pictured here is going to be President Trump's border czar. He says, I hear a lot of people say the talk of a mass deportation is racist. It's threatening to the immigrant community. Yes, it is. Trump's former acting director of immigration enforcement, he argues it should be only threatening to the illegal immigrant community. They're not going to go door to door, but there will be arrests. And each one of those arrests is going to result in one less immigrant person being here in the United States. Let me let you hear Tom Homan speak to this.
I hear a lot of people say, the talk of a mass deportation is racist. It's threatening to the immigrant community. It's not threatening to the immigrant community. It should be threatening to the illegal immigrant community. But on the heels of a historic illegal immigration crisis, that has to be done.
How you doing?
At the Republican National Convention this summer, Tom Homan was the proud pitchman of mass deportation.
I got a message to the millions of illegal aliens that Joe Biden's releasing our country. You better start packing now.
Over 3 decades, he worked his way up from border patrolman to acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the agency known as ICE, during the first year and a half of the Trump administration. This election cycle, former President Trump has mentioned mass deportation at nearly every rally.
We will begin the largest deportation operation in the history of our country because we have no choice.
What would the largest deportation in American history look like to you?
Well, let me tell you what's not going to be first. It's not going to be a mass sweep of neighborhoods. It's not going to be building concentration camps. I've read it all. It's ridiculous.
But if mass deportation is not going to be, as you said, massive sweeps and concentration camps, what is it?
There'll be targeted arrest. We'll know who we're going to arrest, where we're most likely to find them based on numerous investigative processes.
Okay? Numerous investigative processes. We need to make sure we understand that. We're not going to set up huge communities of illegal immigrants. We're going to arrest those people that are here illegally. Not concentration camps or anything like that. But there will be mass arrests, and when we find these people, they will be sent back to their individual countries. Okay, I want to make that point perfectly clear. Okay? A lot of people don't like that. When I've talked about it, I've had my face bit off. But I'm here to tell you what exactly is going to happen. There is a reason that Tom Homan was picked by President Trump to be the border czar. There's a reason. He was out there on the lines making sure it was done before. He was a Border Patrol officer. He worked his way up through the ranks. Worked his way up through the ranks. Then, when it was all said and done, Tom Homan became the ICE director, Immigration Customs Enforcement. Now he's going to be the border czar, to right the wrong that has been done by the Biden administration. I want to make sure everybody understands that. Again, we're not going to have the concentration camps like we had during World War II. That's not going to happen. Okay? Now, President Trump has also appointed a man as a deputy chief of staff. Let me show you a picture of Mr. Miller. Okay? This man, he's the deputy chief of staff for policy. President-elect Trump announced his choice for the border being Mr. Homan. But his deputy chief of staff is going to be Stephen Miller. Okay? He's going to make sure that this country is protected. He's going to make sure this country is protected. He's also announced former Governor Mike Huckabee from the great state of Arkansas to be the ambassador to the United Nations. To be the ambassador to the United Nations. I thought I had a picture of Governor Huckabee. I don't. But Governor Huckabee is going to be the ambassador to the United Nations. President Trump has also asked South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to be the Homeland Security Secretary. Kristi Noem. Let me show you a picture of Kristi Noem here. Are you kidding me? Well, when I got the picture of Kristi Noem, it didn't make it to my file here, so we'll have to show that to you another time. But Kristi Noem is the governor of South Dakota. She's a great lady. She's supported President Trump for a long time now. I personally know who Kristi Noem is. She's worked what shall I say? She's worked her magic for her state. When everybody else turned over everything but positivity for her state, she stood up for her state. And she made her state number one in the United States. So Kristi Noem being the Homeland Security Secretary is a good thing. The President Homeland Security Secretary has a lot to be desired. He ought to be in jail. He should be in jail for not doing his job, helping protect the United States. He was nearly impeached by Congress earlier this year. So at least now we're going to have a good Secretary of Homeland Security. Someone else, and he remains yet to be nominated for the Secretary of State position. Let me show you a picture of Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is up for nomination for Secretary of State. As a son of a Cuban immigrant, Rubio will be the first Latino to serve as America's top diplomat. When earlier this year he was considered for Trump's vice presidential nomination. He has since developed a strong working relationship with President Trump following the 2016 primary race. Someone else that you may not know. Let me show you her. Her picture here. This is a woman that has had a lot of comeuppance for President Trump. She stood up for everybody. She's literally stood up for everybody. Her name is Susan Wiles. Susan Wiles. Susan Wiles has been the chief of staff. She's age 67. She was a senior advisor to President Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. And now she's going to be his chief of staff. Now, someone else whose appointment is very important. Let me show you that picture. This is a man whose name is Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz. W-A-L-T-Z. W-A-L-T-Z. He is a retired Army National Guard officer and a war veteran. He will be the next National Security Advisor. Mike is a strong champion of My America First policy agenda and will be a tremendous advocate for our pursuit of peace through strength. This move would put Waltz at the forefront of a litany of national security crises ranging from the ongoing effort to provide weapons to Ukraine and escalating worries about the growing alliance between Russia and North Korea to the persistent attacks in the Middle East by Iran proxies and the push for a ceasefire between Israel, Hamas, and Hezbollah. Waltz is a three-term congressman. He served multiple tours in Afghanistan, and he has worked as a policy advisor in the Pentagon. Mike Waltz is an exceptional man. Let me show you another image. This is the woman who is named Elise Stefanik. Elise Stefanik. She's going to be the United Nations ambassador to the United States. Elise Stefanik is a New York representative, a congresswoman. She's been one of Trump's most steadfast defenders since his first impeachment. She was elected to the House of Representatives in 2014. Stefanik was chosen by her GOP House colleagues as House Republican Conference Chair in 2021, after former Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney was removed for publicly criticizing Trump's false claims of winning the 2020 election. They were not false claims. Liz Cheney has since been dumped from Congress. She was a GOP representative from Wyoming. She was dumped out of Congress by her own people because she was making false claims against President Trump. The whole January 6th committee that Liz Cheney was on lied to the public. Pencil neck Adam Schiff, congressman from San Francisco. Pencil neck Adam Schiff wrote a huge declaration of false information. Pencil neck Adam Schiff on that January 6th committee was held responsible for his actions. Now he will never hold another chairmanship of any committee in the United States Congress. He was censured. Schiff is bad, just as Liz Cheney was bad. Ms. Stefanik took Cheney's place. Stefanik is now age 40. She served in the role as a third-ranking member of the House leadership. She's a New York representative that's been one of Trump's most steadfast defenders. Someone else. Well, let me go on just a few minutes again about Stefanik. She held in there for everybody. She's been a great representative, and she's helped hold the Congress in check keep the Democrat communists in check. She's done her job. Now she's going to be one of President Trump's main people. Now, there's another person I want you to know about. His name is Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller. He's going to be the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Miller was an immigration hardliner and has been a vocal spokesman during the presidential campaign for President Trump's mass deportations. This 39-year-old senior advisor during President Trump's administration. He's been an immigration hardliner, a vocal spokesman for President Trump. He stood up for everything. He's been a central figure in some of Trump's policy decisions so far. There's someone else I want to introduce you to. A man named Lee Zeldin. Right here. Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin is a 44-year-old former U.S. House member from New York, and he said, "We will restore U.S. energy dominance. We will revitalize our auto industry to bring American jobs back and make the U.S. a global leader of AI, making sure China and Russia do not dominate the AI community." The AI community is very important. I personally don't like AI. But if there's going to be AI, which there is, this man will hold it in check to make sure the U.S. will be the dominant global leader of AI. He said, quote, "We will do so while protecting access to clean air and water." Under Zeldin's leadership, the EPA is expected to begin a lengthy process of repealing and replacing various standards established during the Biden administration. Key regulations at risk include stringent methane emission standards for the oil and gas industry, which Biden's EPA implemented to reduce climate changing pollutants. That's fine. But Biden wanted to reduce pollutants completely down, get rid of them completely. That's impossible. China and Russia, who also pump oil and gas, their pollutants are far stronger than ours. The United States has the most regulations, and the United States has less pollutants. This man, Mr. Zeldin, is going to make sure we have less pollutants while also letting the United States again become oil and gas dominant. And, as a result, a reduction in our prices for everything that we buy, including gas and oil. Zeldin will ensure fair and swift regulatory decisions that will be enacted in a way to unleash the power of American business. At the same time, maintaining the highest environmental standards, including the cleanest air and water on the planet. Now, I have a few more things to talk to you about. Why? Because, folks, there's a lot of things happening. Some of you talked last week about P. Diddy. P. Diddy is involved in something far bigger than most people can imagine. It leads all the way to the top. Trump and the military set the wheels in motion. The Department of Homeland Security's cover-up of the P. Diddy investigation will eventually connect Kamala Harris, Epstein, and the Clintons. P. Diddy's cover-up is going to eventually connect with Kamala Harris, Epstein, and the Clintons, as well as Biden. Trump is ensuring that the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security will destroy themselves over this cover-up. As we know, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are going to dissolve under President Trump's leadership. President Trump is going to fire everyone that's in leadership at the FBI and Homeland Security. The people in leadership of those organizations are bad. They're very bad. When President Trump was previously in office, we had two people in charge at the FBI. One of them was a lover of the director of the FBI. Both of them were fired. The present director of the FBI, Mr. Wray, is evil as well. He will be replaced. The person in charge of Homeland Security will take care of it. Someone else that will probably go away is the director of Secret Service. He's going to go away. It remains to be seen whether President Trump will fill his spot with someone else that I truly admire. Most of you know who I'm talking about. We'll see what happens. But the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are going to destroy themselves over this cover-up, which involves a military coup. A military coup where Biden had to step down from being president and running for president of the United States, and Kamala Harris taking over. A coup. Extortion, human trafficking, and sex rings, all tied to major banks and international financial systems linked to Epstein. These military operations are much larger and more far-reaching than anyone even realizes. Trump's ultimate goal is to clean house at the FBI, the CIA, and the Department of Homeland Security, which are deeply involved in the military deep state. They are deeply involved in the military deep state. And the coup against Biden. Sex trafficking operations tied to ex-presidents and vice presidents as well. P. Diddy's arrest was meant to protect Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, and CIA operations as well. There's definitely currently a major power struggle within the Department of Justice. We've seen the Department of Justice go after President Trump illegally. Homeland Security also working against President Trump. And the CIA and the FBI. Now, I've already shared that P. Diddy was secretly arrested during Trump's administration, and he became a triple agent. He was forced to turn against his former allies. He has vast amounts of compromising information. Videos, servers, and intelligence involving top celebrities, elites, and U.S. officials. This information has been copied and is under the control of the White Hats within the FBI and DOJ. P. Diddy was forced to play a vital role in exposing the deep connection to Clinton, Obama, and their regime. Now there's infighting between agencies. The FBI has taken over by DHS under orders connected to Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, and Obama's CIA operations. There's widespread panic in Hollywood, as many fear being exposed in these sex tapes. Celebrities like the Kardashians, the A-list actors, producers. However, the deep state isn't concerned about them. The real worry lies with Kamala Harris, who appears in these videos along with Epstein, Bill Clinton, and even Chris Tucker. This is why DHS took control of the investigation. They know he could unleash threatened 2024 elections. The 2024 election's over now. Hillary Clinton manipulated Kamala Harris into attending secret parties in the early 2000s, where she was filmed at these famous events that involved underage teens and even younger children. The internal fighting FBI, the DHS, and the DOJ is intensifying, and it's threatening to expose rampant corruption behind the scenes. Trump and the military, FBI, DHS operatives, and intelligence agencies have been aware of these events. They knew the deep state, led by the Obama CIA. The deep state, the FBI, would try to shield P. Diddy from the public and silence him. Here's what's going to happen. The first investigation of P. Diddy will be a smokescreen, with the deep state dismantling his credibility in preparation for the second round of Trump's White House and the indictments that are going to come forth in 2025. This will connect to a coup aftermath and the chaos of 2024 and 2025. Civil level chaos is being planned. We've already seen some of that chaos. But after Trump and the military restore order in late spring 2025, the newly formed Department of Justice and the FBI divisions will bring the real Diddy saga to light. The investigations will connect Epstein and the banks tied to BlackRock and the military coup. We are on a collision course, guys. We are on a collision course with the truth about the deep state and the globalist coup against the United States. It's a near civil war scenario, which is going to show the American public the depths of the betrayal of President Trump and others. That's going on. As we've said before, we've seen some turmoil already. 2025 promises us even more. Also this weekend we found out something else. Iran has plotted against President Trump again. Iran put someone up to take out President Trump. 2 people have been arrested. 2 people have already been arrested. 1 person escaped. The FBI and the Secret Service is already pursuing him, and he's likely going to be caught as well. But this is a third threat against President Trump. President Trump is being heavily protected now. We hope it doesn't come again. We hope this doesn't happen again. Now, in a few minutes we're going to talk about the Pacific Northwest volcanoes, the activity, and the earthquakes that are happening. The next thing I want to talk about is the volcanoes around the world. Okay? The information I have about the volcanoes around the world was updated not more than an hour and a half ago. Let's go down to Mount Ibu in Indonesia, central Indonesia. Mount Ibu erupted earlier today. A volcanic eruption up to 8,000 feet high. 8,000 feet high. The volcanoes I'm going to talk to you tonight about have erupted multiple times already today. Mount Ibu is one of them. Leotobi volcano. Leotobi volcano has been erupted for about a week now. Leotobi volcano has erupted up to 30,000 feet high. First time it erupted earlier today was up to 15,000 feet high. The second eruption was flight level 300, 30,000 feet high. 30,000 foot high. We go over to Mexico, southeast of Mexico City. Popocatépetl has been erupting off and on for several years now. Popocatépetl has been erupted for several years, off and on. Today, they didn't see any volcanic ash. It had clouds around the volcano. Down in Guatemala. Guatemala is another volcano. Fuego volcano has been erupted. We go back to Indonesia. Semeru volcano erupted up to 14,000 feet high today. Over to Ecuador. Ecuador has two volcanoes. One of those volcanoes is Sangay volcano. Eruption up to 18,000 foot high. We go over to Russia, over the Kamchatka Peninsula. Shibulush volcano has erupted. Right now, the information has been suspended by the Volcano Observatory. Don't know why, but they suspended the information about Shibulush volcano. Shibulush volcano has erupted very highly. About 3.5 years ago, Shibulush volcano erupted up to 85,000 feet high. 85,000 foot high, guys. That was huge. It's been erupting up to 35 to 40,000 feet high as of late. Krimsky volcano over in the Kamchatka Peninsula, south of Shibulush. Volcanic ash is leaving the volcano, but they're not able to identify it on the satellite. Krimsky volcano has been erupting, but they can't see what's going on via satellite. Dukono volcano down in Halmahera, Indonesia. Halmahera, Indonesia. Dukono has been erupting every day for years. Dukono volcano erupted up to 8,000 feet high today. Normally, Dukono erupts up to 7,000 to 8,000 feet high every day. Every day. Let's see. There's been light emissions and gas emissions from Popocatépetl earlier today. Let's go down here. Semeru also had an earlier eruption up to 14,000 feet high today. Semeru volcanoes in Indonesia. Let's see. Krimsky volcano I told you about. Okay, we go over to northern South America. Colombia. Northwestern Colombia, we have Nevado de Ruiz. Nevado de Ruiz. There has been some volcanic ash emissions. There's been some volcanic ash emissions at Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia. The other volcano over in Ecuador besides Sangay is called Reventador. Reventador. There has been some ash emissions, but ash emissions stopped about 12 noon today. Reventador volcano. Let's see, what else do I have for you here? Krimsky in Russia earlier today erupted up to 16,000 feet high. 16,000 feet high. Flight level 160. 160. Fuego volcano in Guatemala has been erupted, and it just has a orange glow at the summit right now. Let's see here. Another volcano over in Guatemala. The name of that volcano is Santiaguito Volcano. Santiaguito Volcano. There's been no volcanic ash emissions today. Ash emissions stopped as of last night. They expect Santiaguito Volcano and also Fuego Volcano to begin erupting sometime tonight. Just so all of you know. Does anybody have any questions about the volcanoes? Does anyone have any Are any of you hearing my voice now? Can I get a 5x5, please? Catherine Sigerson asks, is that Iceland? No, it's not. Iceland has been erupting, but it's been very low eruptions there. Catherine Sigerson says 5x5. Renee's 5x5. Demon Catman. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that. Mr. Maga says, sound fine, Ron. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Do any of you have any questions about the volcanoes? I wanted to give you that information because we haven't talked about volcanoes around the world very much. I wanted to make sure you had that. Rob52, welcome, Guy. I appreciate you being here, brother. God bless you. God bless you. Okay, guys, if it's okay with you, I'm going to talk about what is going on in the Pacific Northwest. There's a lot of information here. I would ask that all of you pay strict attention to what we're talking about, because there is information here. Now, there is some disturbance by the agency. The agency has interrupted what we've been doing here. In putting together this information today, I found interference. I found interference from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Now, that doesn't normally happen all the time. Sometimes they just hide information. But today I found interference. Them not wanting us to see what's going on. But I was vigilant. I kept paying attention. Now, Richard Smith is reporting a 5.0 earthquake in Oaxaca, Mexico. 4.4. 4.5 Kamchatka, 5.0 Oaxaca, Mexico, 4.4 in Oaxaca, Mexico, a 2.0 in the Dokanese Islands, which are just west of Turkey, a 4.0 in Sulawesi, Indonesia, a 3.1 in northern Alaska. There hasn't been a huge increase in earthquakes in Alaska over the past 24 hours. That's a good thing. David Lowe is here. Welcome, Dave. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. He says he hasn't been here in a while with us live. We appreciate you being here. Now, folks, I have a lot of information to share with you. Hang in here. I want to start up in northern Washington, just south of the Canadian border. This is a seismogram, which is a graph from the computer that is monitoring Mount Baker volcano. This is a graph called a seismogram. It's showing all the activity at this volcano. So far, all we are seeing are minor tremors. Minor tremors and a couple of minor earthquakes. minor earthquakes. One minor earthquake happened just after 4:43 a.m. this morning on the blue line there. On these particular seismographs, on the seismogram, these seismograms start reporting information at 5 p.m. the day before. So at the top, the information starts at 5 p.m. yesterday, Monday evening. Then it continues all throughout the day today. That's what you're seeing here. We are seeing a lot of tremors, and we're also seeing some minor earthquakes up here at Mount Baker. However, there's more to this than meets the eye. I want to go now up on the north side of Mount Baker to a ski resort. It's called Schuchsen Ski Resort at Mount Baker. This particular seismogram is showing activity of magma coming into the volcano. All these curly lines here are called VF waves, very low frequency radio waves caused by magma coming into the volcano. These curly waves indicate a lot of magma. A lot of magma. Now with magma comes earthquakes, doesn't it? On the other seismogram I just got through showing you, it doesn't hardly show any activity except tremors. What you're seeing here on this seismogram is showing a lot more activity. A lot of magma coming into the magma chamber of the volcano, which would cause large earthquakes. So that means that the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network has been altering the seismogram at Mount Baker, because it's not showing large earthquakes, it's showing tremors. It's showing tremors. Yes, at the bottom of the seismogram, the amount of magma was coming into the volcano later this afternoon, late this morning, early this afternoon, had calmed down. But yesterday evening and into the early morning hours of this morning, there was a lot of magma. It could be construed on this other seismogram that they're hiding information. They're hiding the information. All that magma that I just got through showing you coming into Mount Baker would be larger earthquakes than we're seeing. But again, we are only seeing some tremors with an occasional 2.0 minor earthquake. 2.0 minor earthquakes, and those earthquakes are not feelable. They're not felt earthquakes. So the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network is lying to the public, just like USGS is. Isn't that interesting? Let's go south and west to Glacier Peak. Glacier Peak usually doesn't show much activity. For the most part, all we're seeing are minor tremors here. Each line here represents magma coming into the magma chamber. Okay? Magma coming into the magma chamber. These are all thin lines. Occasionally, the lines get thicker, then they get thinner again. They're called magma pulse signals. Magma pulse signals. Sometimes they're thicker than others, sometimes they're thin. But for the most part, we're not seeing much activity here at Glacier Peak. Rarely do we. Rarely do we. What you're seeing for the most part are tremors here, except for an earthquake here that happened this afternoon. Let me pull up that information right here for you, right here. Actually, it was late this morning. This earthquake happened just after 11:01 a.m. this morning. This was a 2.9, 3.0 earthquake here at Glacier Peak. Glacier Peak. However, look at that blue monstrosity just above that. That is a magma churn signal. That is a magma churn signal. Magma churn signals appear on the seismogram because all of a sudden the amount of magma coming into the magma chamber is superheated. Superheated magma coming into the magma chamber causes these magma churn signals. In this case, let me enlarge this even further so you can see what I'm talking about here. Each magma churn signal typically should be anywhere from 23 to 24 lines high. In this particular case, I've already counted the lines of this magma churn signal. They're 12 lines high. This means this magma churn signal indicates that the seismograph, the computer that recorded this information, was turned down to 50%. So the seismogram we're seeing today is 50% of real world. 50% of what really happened. That's what we're seeing here at Glacier Peak. So remember, when we see the magma churn signals, the higher the lines the magma churn signals cover indicate the amount of hot superheated magma. And it indicates that the computer was either turned down or turned up. In this case, the computer was turned down to 50% of real world, which means the seismic events happening on this particular seismogram are 50% of real world. Meaning even that 3.0 I pointed out that happened after 11:01 this morning is probably a 3.5 to 4.0 earthquake. A 3.5 to 4.0 earthquake. Incredible. And yes, you do see some tremors here, 1.7, 1.8 tremors here. I don't see anything that exceeds that. Yes, you're seeing some lines here on the seismogram here that are thicker than others. Again, that is magma pulse signals. The amount of magma coming into the magma chamber here at Glacier Peak. Okay? The amount of magma increases and decreases. That's why we have the larger or thicker lines and the thinner lines. Thicker lines, more magma; thinner lines, less magma. Magma churn signals. Okay? Let's continue this discussion. I'm now going back down, I'm not back down, but I'm going south to Mount Rainier. I have several seismograms to show you from Mount Rainier. The first one I want to show you is from Emerald Ridge, Mount Rainier Emerald Ridge. Emerald Ridge is on the southwest side of Mount Rainier. The southwest side of Mount Rainier. This particular seismogram shows you a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber. The normal seismogram that we would see from Emerald Ridge doesn't show any kind of activity at all. But this one does. This shows a lot of activity early this morning. A lot of activity from 10 p.m. last night until approximately 4 a.m. this morning. Then the activity got less and less here. Okay? Again, this is Mount Rainier. Let's look at some of the other seismograms to show what is actually going on at Mount Rainier. We haven't been showing a lot of seismograms from Mount Rainier because otherwise they will alter them. If the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network sees us showing the seismograms, they start manipulating the seismograms to not show anything. That's why I've been holding off from showing you these seismograms on a regular basis. I've wanted to make sure you see what we see. Mount Rainier is getting busy. Mount Rainier is getting to a point where at some point it's going to erupt. Okay? This is one seismogram on the northwest side of Mount Rainier. This is observation rock. Observation rock. Folks, what we're showing you here is a lot of tremors, top to bottom, side to side. Tremors happening all day long. Now these tremors are nothing. These tremors here cannot be felt. But this is the activity happening at Mount Rainier. These are all tremors. And it's happening minute by minute, second by second, hour by hour, all day long. This is very significant activity. We haven't seen this kind of activity in a very long time at Mount Rainier. Consistent tremors, non-stop consistent tremors here at Mount Rainier. Let me show you another seismograph from Mount Rainier. This one I'm going to show you is coming from the south upper side of the volcano. This is Camp Sherman. Camp Sherman. Let me bring this over, and I want to enlarge the seismograph so you can see what I'm seeing here. The vertical lines you're seeing here, the short vertical lines are microquakes, minor tremors, and the longer, shorter lines are minor earthquakes, 2.0 earthquakes. Those 2.0 earthquakes are about a half-inch long, vertically. Yes, we're seeing some large earthquakes here. For example, this blue line near the top of this seismogram. This happened after 6:30 p.m. 6:30 p.m. over here on the left side here. Okay? It shows 1800 hours on the left-hand side. 1800 hours military time is 6 p.m. The blue line indicates 6:30 over here. So we move over here to 6:08 p.m. last night. A 3.4 earthquake. A 3.4 earthquake at Mount Rainier. Look at that long vertical line, a 3.4 earthquake at Mount Rainier last night. Now, we move down this seismogram here. Yes, we continue to see some minor earthquakes. We see tremors here. After 2:15 this morning, we see 02 over on the left-hand side. The red line here is 2:15. We come over here to 2:03. This is a 2.5 earthquake, 2.5 minor earthquake. Interesting. We see other earthquakes here. If there is a vertical line with a dot in it, in the middle of it, it's an earthquake. A vertical line with a dot in it, in the middle of it, is an earthquake. We see some good-sized earthquakes, maybe even 3.0 earthquakes here. Okay? After midnight, 12:30 this morning. This actual earthquake that happened here over on the left-hand side in the center here is at 12, I'm going to say 12:26, 12:27 this morning. Another 3.0 earthquake there. Yes, we're having some 2.5, 2.7, 2.8 earthquakes here. Now, we see another magma churn signal here, this time at Mount Rainier. Let's count these horizontal lines here to see how strong the seismogram is. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 lines high. Okay? 9 lines high. Folks, this would indicate that this seismogram is showing activity at Mount Rainier at 46% real world, meaning the computer was turned down to only show activity here at 46% real world. Okay? 46% real world. I'm going to reduce the size of this seismogram again. Okay, I told you earlier that this earthquake after 6:30, about 6:37 p.m. last night, a 3.4 earthquake. This may have been a larger earthquake than that. Consider the computer was turned down. The seismograph was turned down to show about 46% real world. Interesting. Interesting. Okay? Look at all this other earthquake activity this afternoon. Actually, it wasn't even this afternoon. This is earlier this morning. After 6 a.m. Look at all this activity between 6 and 8 a.m. this morning. Number one, that's a lot of magma activity coming into the magma chamber. A lot of magma coming into Mount Rainier. But look at the vertical lines here. The magma coming into the magma chamber here is causing earthquakes. How does that happen? The magma coming into the magma chamber of the volcano is fracturing rock inside the volcano. Fracturing rock inside the magma chamber. That is why we see all these vertical lines here. Magma fracturing the rock in the volcano, causing earth movement. That is really what's going on here. That is exactly what is going on here. Again, this is Mount Rainier. What happened today after 1:15? We go down here on the left-hand side to 1300 hours. That's 1 p.m. The red line after 1300 hours is 1:15. Approximately 4 minutes later, 1:19 p.m. this afternoon, we had another, what looks to be a 3.2, 3.3 earthquake. We know that this seismogram was turned down to only show 46% of real world. So we can almost multiply the size of this earthquake by 2. This earthquake may have been as strong as a 4.0 earthquake. Another 4.0 earthquake here at Mount Rainier. Interesting. Interesting. Let's go to another seismogram over on the north top of the volcano. The north top of the volcano. Folks, this is Camp Muir. Look what's happening to Camp Muir, guys. Unreal. Look at the tremors happening here. Tremors happening here are almost non-stop. Almost non-stop. There was a period of time earlier this morning where the magma calmed down and there's fewer tremors here. But it's literally non-stop, top to bottom, side to side on this seismogram. It did not slow down. What this means, Mount Rainier is gearing up for an eruption. Mount Rainier is gearing up for an eruption. This is the 4th seismogram I'm showing you from Mount Rainier. Each and every one of those seismograms shows you activity. A lot of activity. For the United States Geological Survey, it only showed minor microquakes. It's a joke. It's a joke. I have already showed you 3 to 4 good-sized earthquakes. Small to moderate earthquakes. 3.0 to 3.9 earthquakes. Okay? Those are considered small earthquakes. A couple of these earthquakes may have been 4.0 or larger. Moderate earthquakes at the volcano. Mount Rainier is moving, and it's moving significantly. I've gotten emails and I've gotten text messages from some of you telling me that you felt movement over in the Seattle-Tacoma area and other areas around Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is gearing up to an eruption. It's sad that the United States Geological Survey, the preeminent seismic network for the world, is not showing what is actually going on. The sad thing is they never do. They never show us exactly what's going on anywhere around the world. They pick and choose what information they're going to show us. That's sad. That is very sad. Let me pull up the information about Mount St. Helens. We're going south to Mount St. Helens. I'm going to show you East Dome, Mount St. Helens. East Dome is the top of the volcano. East Dome, Mount St. Helens is a seismograph. The seismograph is a computer. The seismograph is the sheet that we're showing you here, the graph of the activity. The seismograph here is showing us a lot of activity. Mount St. Helens is gearing up for an eruption. We talked about this before. Again, the United States Geological Survey is only showing us tremors, microquakes at Mount St. Helens today. But look what's actually going on. It's just not microquakes, guys. It's not just microquakes. In fact, I do not see any microquakes on the seismograph. None. Yes, I am seeing tremors. A whole passy load of tremors. And down at the bottom of the seismograph, we're also seeing some minor earthquakes. Each of these lines gets larger and larger. The longer lines are minor 2.0 earthquakes. I don't see anything larger than a 2.0 minor earthquake. But tremors nonstop. Over here in the black line in the center of this seismograph. Okay? This is after, let me zoom in here so you can see it what I'm talking about. Over here after 2 a.m. on the black line. This is a 1.7 tremor. This tremor lasted for almost a full minute. That tremor lasted a full minute. Tremors caused by magma coming into the magma chamber at Mount St. Helens, causing minor earth movement. Very minor earth movement tremors. But again, what we are actually seeing here at Mount St. Helens is a lot of tremors. Whole pass load of tremors. Mount St. Helens is getting ready to erupt. Let me show you another seismogram coming from a different part of Mount St. Helens. The next one I'm going to show you is on the north side of Mount St. Helens. It's called Studebaker Ridge. Studebaker Ridge. Studebaker Ridge could be called its own volcano. It's a little bit distance north of Mount St. Helens. But again, what are we seeing here? A pass load of tremors. Non-stop tremors here. Here we're also seeing some space here where we may have had some microquakes as well. But for the most part, these are minor tremors here, all day long here at Mount St. Helens. Okay? Studebaker Ridge. Let me show you another one here. This time I'm going to Barrett Spur. No, that's at Mount Hood. I'm sorry, that's at Mount Hood. Excuse me for just a second. Let's go over to September Lobe, which is also a computer seismograph sitting on top of Mount St. Helens. Look at this. I've shown you this seismograph before This particular seismogram is recording magma coming into the magma chamber, just like I showed you up at Mount Baker. The more wavy the lines here, the more magma that's coming into this volcano. And you can see on this seismogram what I'm talking about. Now, we're seeing a lot of wavy lines here late this morning, or I shouldn't say late, early this morning and later early afternoon. The wavier the lines, the more magma coming into the magma chamber. According to this particular seismogram, we should be seeing 2.0, 2.5 earthquakes at least, because the amount of magma coming into Mount St. Helens is high. It's very high, which could lead us to believe we should be seeing earthquakes, not just tremors. That means that the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network has altered this seismogram as well. Usually September lobe here, usually the September lobe seismogram here is showing us the more detailed information. And usually this particular seismogram is not altered, but today it is. For whatever reason, I don't know why PNSN has altered this seismogram. Rarely, if ever, have I seen them do it. Only on a couple of occasions during the past 5.5 years that we've been watching this. Okay? Only a few times. Okay? Let's continue here. Okay, I'm going to leave Mount St. Helens now and I'm going to Mount Hood. Mount Hood is in northern Oregon. Northern Oregon. So let's take a look at northern Mount Hood. Barrett Spur. Barrett Spur, we're seeing a bunch of tremors. A lot of tremors all day long. And then this afternoon, what do we have? We have a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake here. A 2.8, 2.9 earthquake approximately 1:11 p.m. this afternoon. 1:11 p.m. this afternoon. Barrett Spur here at Mount Hood. Interesting, huh? Oh, it absolutely is interesting. We haven't seen that kind of activity here at Mount Hood in quite a while. We haven't seen that kind of activity in Mount Hood in a while. Yes, we've seen tremors a lot. We've seen a lot of tremors. But that's the first time we've seen a large earthquake. Let's keep going here. I want to now take you over to Oaxaca, Mexico has seen another 4.1 earthquake just a few minutes ago. Let's take you over to the south side of Mount Hood, about midway up the volcano. Midway up the volcano. This is called Palmer Lift. Palmer Lift is the ski lift on the side of Mount Hood. Look what we're seeing here. Non-stop, side to side, top to bottom, earthquake, tremors. These are tremors, guys. Non-stop tremors from yesterday evening at 5 p.m. until the time I pulled this seismogram this afternoon. Look at that. Look at that. I pulled this seismogram just after 3 p.m. Tremors. Non-stop tremors here at Mount Hood. Does that surprise any of you? Mount Hood showed a lot of earthquakes a while back. 2.5 years ago, scientists thought Mount Hood might be ready to erupt. They issued a volcanic eruption advisory. They issued a volcanic eruption advisory on a Sunday, where 125 earthquakes, not just tremors, 125 full-blown earthquakes happened at Mount Hood. The smallest being a 2.2 earthquake all the way up to 3.0 earthquakes. 125 of them on a Sunday. And USGS called for a volcanic eruption advisory, a yellow advisory. Nothing happened. Things calmed down here at Mount Hood. But you can see now what we've been saying about Mount Hood. Mount Hood is very active. Mount Hood is very active. Now I want to stay on the south side of Mount Hood, but this time I'm going to the I'm going to the lower level at Mount Hood. The lower level is called Government Camp. This particular seismogram is called Timberline. The seismogram is called Timberline. The seismograph that's reporting this information is at Government Camp. Look at this. For the most part, all we're seeing here are minor tremors. Minor tremors. However, we do have some full-blown earthquakes here. Let me enlarge this seismogram so you can see what I'm talking about here. Over here on the left side, right here. Okay? 5.2 in the South Atlantic at the South Sandwich Islands. The South Atlantic, South Sandwich Islands, a 5.2 earthquake. Okay, over here on the left side of this seismogram, near the bottom of it, okay? After 10 a.m. this morning on the black line, we're seeing not just tremors. We're seeing some activity we call minor earthquakes, 2.0 earthquakes. Then, at 10:15 on the red line, about midway down after about 10:06 this morning. 10:06 this morning. 2.0, 2.2 earthquakes. Look at all that activity. Look at all that activity that starts about 10:05 this morning and goes to 10:13, 10:14 a.m. this morning. A lot of tremors, huh? And we even had some minor earthquakes there. Then we come over here to this black line on the right-hand side. Over on the left-hand side, this would be 11 a.m. But over here, it starts off at about 11:11 a.m. to 11:14 a.m. We see some 2.0 and 2.2 earthquakes here. The longer vertical lines here are 2.0 to 2.2 earthquakes here. That's significant. Again, this is at Mount Hood. This is at the lower level of Mount Hood. Magma coming into the magma chamber here at Mount Hood is causing these earthquakes and tremors. Okay? This is a lot of activity. We saw some activity at Mount Baker to the north. We saw very little activity at Glacier Peak. We had a lot of activity at Mount Rainier and at Mount St. Helens. Now we're seeing a lot of activity at Mount Hood as well. No, I don't think this is enough activity to say that Mount Hood is getting ready to erupt. I don't believe that. But this is significant activity nonetheless. This is significant activity at Mount Hood. Let's go south. I want to take you south to Bachelor Volcano. Bachelor Volcano. Now, for the past 3 years, Bachelor Volcano was, the seismographs at Bachelor Volcano were turned off. They were not reporting any activity at all. Finally, about a month and a half ago, they turned the seismographs back on. Look what they're reporting now. Yes, we are seeing a lot of tremor activity. Side to side, top to bottom tremor activity. Yes, the thinner lines here are showing some magma activity here, causing these tremors. But very tiny tremor activity here. There is magma activity here at Bachelor Volcano, but it's just causing minor tremor activity. Now this afternoon is a different story. Let me enlarge this seismogram and show you what's happening this afternoon. Look at this. From 11 a.m. this morning, until until 2:30 this afternoon. After 2:30 this afternoon, we had a substantial amount of magma activity coming into the volcano. Look what we see here. Ultimate color. We don't see hardly any white lines amidst all this color. That means there was significant activity here at this volcano, Bachelor Volcano. It was non-stop tremor activity for 3 hours. Non-stop tremor activity for 3 hours. That's significant. This is the most activity we've seen here at Bachelor Volcano for a very long time. 5 years ago, we saw activity all the time like this, and even more, with full-blown earthquakes. We're not seeing full-blown earthquakes here.
Earthquake downgraded to 5.0 from 5.2 location, South Sandwich Islands region, class moderate, depth 11.2 miles, 15 minutes ago.
USGS just downgraded that 5.2 in the South Sandwich Islands to 5.0. That's typical. That's typical. What do you think here about Bachelor Volcano? It's very active, isn't it? It's very, very active. We're going to keep an eye on Bachelor Volcano from now on, as much as we possibly can, because this is significant activity. It started with significant activity yesterday evening after 5 p.m., and that continued for almost an hour and a half. But this activity continued this afternoon, actually started this morning about 11 o'clock, and continued for 3 hours. That's very significant. Bachelor Volcano is moving. That's moving to a great extent. Let's hunt down Sisters Volcano. Sisters Volcano has usually had a lot of activity, but I'm going to tell you right now, they have messed with the seismograph. They messed with the seismograph itself, the machine, the computer. This is crap. This is called abstract. This is called abstract, guys. This is garbage. Elizabeth Hutchison just gave us a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I wish I could give you a EMA sticker here, but it's not allowing me to do that right now. I'm sorry about that. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We really appreciate that. It helps keep this program on the air. God bless you, Elizabeth. We appreciate it so much. God bless you. Thank you for that wonderful donation to our super chat. Any of you could also send us donations via super chat. It's a very simple operation. And if you want to find out more about it, you go to our program, and down at the bottom it talks about SC, which is super chat. You can click on that and you decide what donation you want to give us, and then you can give us a super chat. God bless all of you who help support this program, whether it's on super chat or whether you send us donations in the mail. Again, we do appreciate that as well. Do I even have that scrolling across the screen? No, I don't. I don't know why I have that. I don't have that scrolling across the screen. I usually do. I do now. Or should I say I should have that? Yes, we do. We have it scrolling across the screen right now. Just a second here. I've got to play my picture here. There we go. I've got the information about our address. I've got our email address up here as well. Our email address here is rltnspdema@gmail.com. Our post office box is at 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina. Zip code here is 28655. Carol and I would love to see cards and letters from you. We love cards and letters. You could stick a check or even cash in the center of your card or letter. If you send us a letter, make sure your letter is wrapped around the cash or your check so nobody can see what's inside your envelope. We'd love to hear from you, find out about how you and your family are doing, hear about your emergency preparedness levels, what you're doing to become prepared. We'd love to hear about that. We'd also love to hear about your preparations for everything else that's going on in your life. Okay, so you can send us donations and cards and letters. We appreciate that very much. You can also send us donations to our PayPal and Venmo locations, which are at the top of our program description, which is just underneath the video that you're watching today. Just below this video is what they call a program description. The top of it has got how you can join as a member of the EMA organization here on YouTube. Also, our email address is there, and our PayPal and Venmo locations are there as well, and our mailing address is there as well. Thank you so much for all you do to help us here on Emergency Management Associates. Anyway, getting back to this seismograph here, Sisters Volcano. The top of it is nothing but what they call abstract. Crap. Whatever seismologist that put this together didn't program the computer to give us anything more than crap for the good share of the day last night and into this morning. Okay? It's called abstract. That's what you see here. I've talked about abstract before. Let me enlarge this because we do see some activity this morning and into early part of this afternoon. We're seeing thicker lines which indicate a lot of magma coming into the magma chamber. The thicker the lines, the more magma coming into the magma chamber. The thinner the lines, less magma coming into the magma chamber. Yet we're seeing tremors and earthquakes here. Vertical lines here. Yes, we're seeing some very tiny vertical lines, but we're also seeing more than tremors. When you see a vertical line here with a dot in the middle of it that's at least a half inch long, that's like a 2.0, 2.2 earthquake. That's what we're seeing a lot of here. We're also seeing a bunch of tremors here. Okay? Sisters Volcano is very active. Rarely have we ever seen abstract at Sisters Volcano. Rarely, if ever. This is the first. Sisters Volcano is active. Now, it's not just one volcano. Sisters Volcano is actually 3 separate volcanoes, with only one seismograph recording information on 3 different volcanoes. It's a volcanic complex. There should be at least one seismograph with each volcano, but that's not the case. For whatever reason, the University of Oregon and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network decided they would only put one seismograph covering all 3 volcanoes, for whatever reason. But we're showing activity there. We're showing you a lot of activity there. A lot of activity. Wisdom for the Hour says, did I miss something huge? I'm late for the party. I've been talking about stuff that's going on here in the United States that you can go back and review on this channel a little bit later if you'd like. As of late, we're talking about volcanoes. We talked about volcanoes worldwide, and now we're talking about Cascade volcanoes from the Canadian border south. From the Canadian border south. Now we're going down to Crater Lake, South Central Oregon. Crater Lake. I'm going to tell you right now, the main seismograph at Crater Lake, they've turned off. They've turned off. Crater Lake, Cleetwood Cove has been turned off. I'm going to show you first the seismograph, the seismogramics, actually, the computer readout. I'm going to show you the seismogram at Mount Scott on the southeast side of Crater Lake. Crater Lake is a huge volcano. The top of the volcano is covered in water. The top of the volcano is covered in water.
Location Java, Indonesia, class moderate, magnitude 5.0, depth 47.2 miles, 14 minutes ago.
Okay? Oh, crud. What's that? What happened? I'm sorry, guys. Just a second, I'll get it back here. I've never had that happen before either. Okay, I'm going to show you Crater Lake, Mount Scott now. This is Mount Scott. This is the southeast side of Crater Lake. Now let me move this over. You see a lot of activity here. You see a ton of activity. This is nothing more than tremors at this part of the volcano. Crater Lake is a volcano, huge volcano. The top of the lake, the top of the volcano is a huge lake. The top of the volcano is a huge lake. The rim around the volcano happened because the volcano was erupting. And as it erupted, it threw the lava outside the volcano. The walls of the volcano contained the lava inside the volcano. As the lava cooled, got hard, there was a floor that maintained after the lava cooled down. Okay? There was a floor of the volcano there where the lava finished erupting and the lava got cold. The rim of the volcano, all the way around the top of the volcano, gradually filled with water, either groundwater or rainwater. Groundwater or rainwater. Now this is a significant lake. It's an alpine lake in the mountains of Oregon, South Central Oregon. Crater Lake is a huge volcano, a very large volcano. At this particular volcano, look what's going on. The same thing we were seeing at all the other volcanoes, a large amount of activity. In this case, like several of the other volcanoes, we're seeing tremors. Nothing but tremors. But we're seeing nothing but tremors for a couple, 3 hours on end. At the top of this seismogram here, from 5 p.m. down to approximately 7 p.m., we hardly see any white of paper at all. Now these are digital seismographs. They're not actually paper. But they're showing the white here as a digital background. There's hardly any white here in the background. That's because there were so many tremors going on, side by side, back to back, literally for hours. Then the tremors backed off a little bit. But there were still tremors back to back to back to back. But not as thick as earlier. Then late this morning and early this afternoon, what happened here? We're seeing the same thing that happened late yesterday evening here this morning and late this afternoon. Back to back to back to back tremors. Happening for several hours here. Crater Lake is a very active volcano. We didn't used to see this. We didn't used to see all this active tremors. Occasionally we see earthquakes here. We're not seeing that today. But we're seeing back to back to back to back, constant, consistent tremor activity. This volcano is moving. Now, while I don't think it's going to erupt anytime soon, it is moving. Let me show you the other seismogram I can show you from the south central part of Crater Lake. It's called the bunkhouse. Yes, there's a bunkhouse there. At the bunkhouse, we're not seeing tremors though. We're seeing earthquakes. We're seeing earthquakes here. Look at this. We're seeing tiny straight lines with no dots in the middle of them. Those small straight lines, whether they're long or short, without a dot in the middle of them, those are steam signals. Those are steam signals. Steam is being emitted from Crater Lake. However, we are seeing some earthquakes here as well. Vertical lines with dots in the middle of them. This one here is after 7 p.m. last night. About 7:05 last night. This appears to be a 2.6, 2.7 earthquake. Minor earthquake. Then what I believe happened is they turned down the seismograph where it's not hardly showing any activity at all. The seismograph is on, but it's hardly showing any activity at all. They turned the darn seismograph almost off. Then, this morning they started turning it back up. About 10 a.m. they started turning the seismograph back up. Because after that, that's when we start seeing the earthquake activity. The largest activity happened here after, after 10, 11 a.m. 11 minutes after 10 this morning. This appears to be a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. I don't think it's much larger than that. We're not seeing a magma churn signal to show us that this seismogram has been turned way down. So we have to take advantage that this seismogram is giving us good activity, good information. 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. Then after that, after 11 a.m., we have a 2.0 earthquake. 11:13 a.m., again, a 2.5 earthquake. We have a lot of tremors here. About 1:08 this afternoon. 1:08 this afternoon, we have another 2.6, 2.7 earthquake. Crater Lake, the south central side of the volcano. So we're actually seeing earthquakes, not just tremors. It's too bad Cleetwood Cove, which is on the northeast side of Crater Lake, should have been turned on, so we could see actual activity happening at Crater Lake. Yes, we're seeing this activity on the south, but I'd love to see what's going on the northeast side of the volcano. Okay? That's what's happening there. Now, I've shown you the volcanoes in Oregon and Washington. There are two other volcanoes that comprise the Cascade Volcanic System. Those two volcanoes are over in Northern California. Northern California. I'm going to show you two other seismographs. These come from the USGS. The first one I'm going to show you is seismograph LDL. LDL. Now, I've enlarged this seismogram. I'm going to bring it down here so you can see what I can see. This seismogram is a little bit different. Let me enlarge this and then I'm going to pull it down so you can see all the information. This seismograph started recording activity at 3:45 last night. 15:45 activity yesterday afternoon. Yes, we do see some magma activity. The thicker the lines, the more magma coming into the volcano. The thinner the lines, less activity. We're hardly seeing anything but magma here. Very light magma activity, and we're seeing almost no tremors or microquakes at all. Meaning they've turned the system down. They've turned the seismograph way down. Hardly showing any activity. If there's activity at all, it's larger activity that overcame the electronic turndown of the machine. That's what's happening here. Now, early this morning, they started turning the seismograph back up. The thicker the lines, the more magma coming into the magma chamber. We start seeing some very tiny tremors here. Then, 8 o'clock, we're starting to see more magma here. The thicker the lines, the more magma here. Look at this. All we're seeing is more magma here. Then after 11 a.m. this morning, you're seeing more and more magma coming into the magma chamber. But we're still not seeing vertical lines here, meaning they are altering the information. With magma like this, the thicker the lines here, we should be seeing more vertical lines here. They're not. They're not showing us the vertical lines that we need to see. The vertical lines would show us some magma coming into the magma chamber and fracturing the rock inside the chamber. They're not showing that. Yes, they're showing us magma coming into the magma chamber, but they're not showing us the tremors here. The tremors would show us exactly what's going on. Again, the USGS is lying about the veracity of this seismogram. It's not showing us exactly what's happening here. Let me show you one other seismogram here at Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen are here in Northern California. They are part of the Cascade Mountain volcanoes. They're part of the Cascade Mountain volcanoes. Shasta and Lassen, Crater Lake, all the volcanoes between Sisters Volcano and Bachelor Volcano, going all the way up to Mount Hood. There's probably 24 volcanoes in that system. Going up into Washington, all the way to the south end of Canada, called the Cascade Mountain Volcanoes. Every one of them. Let me show you Mount Shasta from seismograph LGY. LGY. Seismograph LGY has shown us a lot of activity since yesterday evening on into this morning. Again, the seismograph started recording information just before 3:45 p.m. yesterday afternoon. Look at this activity. This activity is showing us a lot of magma pulse activity. Thicker lines turning into thinner lines, and thinner lines turning into thicker lines. We're also seeing some vertical lines here, tremors. Tremors caused by the rock fracturing from the magma going into the volcano here. Look at this. We have a lot of activity from just before 3:45 p.m. going through 1:30 p.m. this morning. What happened here? They basically turned down the seismograph where it's not recording anything. Nothing. After 1:30 this morning, the scientists at Mount Shasta turned down the computer. Turned down the seismograph, so it's not recording any activity. Unreal. Usually that doesn't happen. They may turn it down during the nighttime hours, but they usually turn it back up sometime in the morning hours. They did not do that here at Mount Shasta. They're hiding information. They're hiding information. Those of you that live near Mount Shasta, and I'm talking about Hurricane Heather and about 3 others, you folks would be feeling the mountain pulse. You would be feeling the ground pulse from magma coming into the volcano. You would be feeling the earthquakes when they happen. Yet the scientists have turned down the machines. They're not letting us see what's going on. Let's go further south to Mount Lassen. Mount Lassen, I have 3 seismograms to show you. This one here is seismograph LDS. I'm sorry, LDB. Seismogram LDB. Look what we're seeing here. Up at the top of this, it's showing us that we had seismic activity. We had magma coming into the volcano just after 3:30 p.m. 15:30 p.m. at the top left. 3:30 p.m. You see a lot of magma coming in. Thicker lines. Thicker lines. Over on the right-hand side, you see these vertical lines with curly cues. Those vertical lines that are with curly cues are steam signals. Those are steam signals. That's what we're seeing here. So we know that Mount Lassen is steaming. We see some earthquakes here. We see some earthquakes. We see this red vertical line. The red line is computer generated, by the way. The red line is computer generated to get the attention of the seismologist so he'll see what's going on. And by the way, the seismograms I've shown you tonight have been approved by the seismologist. Otherwise, we would not be able to show them to you. So we're seeing steam signals. This red signal you're seeing in the center of your center of your screen here, and one below that. Looking at all of this activity here, we're seeing magma coming into the magma chamber. Sometimes there's more magma than other times. The thicker lines become thinner, the thinner lines become thicker. Look at all these steam signals. This is an awful lot of steam activity. Magma activity. How does this happen? How do we have steam signals? Let me finish showing you what's going on in this particular seismograph. Look what's happening here. We're seeing a lot of steam signals. We're also seeing that magma activity here, causing tremors here. The vertical lines in the horizontal line showing magma coming into the magma chamber in the form of what they call a magma pulse signal. The horizontal line coming through the line is showing tremor activity. A lot of tremor activity. 7:30 a.m. this morning on the lighter blue line here. 7:30 this morning on the left-hand side. Over here, it's like 7:14 a.m. this morning. Actually, I'm sorry, it'd be 7:44 this morning. 7:44 this morning. A 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. But most of the time, we're over also on the one above that, a darker blue line above that, at 6:13 a.m. this morning is a 2.4 earthquake. But we're seeing earthquakes here now. The thicker the lines, the more magma that's coming through the magma chamber here. Here after 12:30 on the dark blue line here. A lot of tremor activity, huh? We see a time here where it looks like there's a magma blip, like a blob of magma. It's causing an earthquake there, right? Yes. It's like a 2.0 earthquake. Then right next to it to the right is a 2.5 earthquake caused by magma coming into the magma chamber, fracturing the rock inside the magma chamber of the volcano. Fracturing rock causing earth movement. That's what's going on here. That's what's going on here at Mount Lassen. Let me show you one other seismogram here at Mount Lassen. It's been a while since we've shown you Mount Lassen and Mount Shasta. That's because they really haven't shown us anything. Otherwise, I would show you this before. One more seismogram here at Mount Lassen. Look at this, guys. Look at this. This is seismogram LME, belonging to Seismograph, LME, the computer. Up at the top of this seismogram, we're seeing a little bit of activity, aren't we? Up at the top left of here. Okay? We don't see much before 3:30 this afternoon. Or, I'm sorry, 3:30 yesterday afternoon. Over on the right side, we see some magma activity. Lines getting thicker there. At 4 p.m., 1600 hours, we're seeing magma coming into the magma chamber, and then midway through this time here, about 4:09 p.m. yesterday afternoon, we have a 2.5, 2.8 earthquake. 2.5, 2.8 earthquake. Then over to the right, just a couple of minutes later, another 2.5 earthquake. And another 2.4 earthquake after that. Then over here at 1630 hours. On the far left at 1630, which is 4:30 yesterday afternoon. At approximately 4:33 yesterday afternoon. A 2.8, 2.9 earthquake caused by rock fracturing inside the volcano. Rock fracturing inside the volcano. I'm going to scroll up here, or scroll down here. Yes, we see constant magma coming into the volcano here, but fewer tremors. We start seeing some tremors, and we also see some more steam signals, meaning vertical lines with no dot in the middle of it. Okay, steam signals. Yes, after 3 o'clock this morning, then we start seeing some tremors. Look what happens after 7:30 this morning. More magma causing tremors and earthquakes. Okay? 2.7, 2.8 earthquakes, 2.9 earthquakes. Then just after 10:03 this morning, 3.0 earthquake. I'm sure this is a 3.0 earthquake. It lasts a while. It lasts about 20 seconds. The thickness of that line says it's about 20 seconds long. That's a good long time for shaking to happen. Then about a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, we have a 2.6, 2.7 earthquake. Unreal. Look at these earthquakes here. The earthquakes start just after 7:30, and they continue literally all day long. All day long. Down here this afternoon, after 2 o'clock, we have 2.8, 2.0 earthquakes here, 2.9 earthquakes here. 2 of them back to back. One lasts about 20 seconds, the other lasts about 10 or 12 seconds. That's a lot of activity. And more earthquakes after that. Mount Lassen is getting ready to erupt, guys. Mount Lassen is getting ready to erupt. This happens every day. It happens every day. Now, yes, they do conceal the activity. Yes, they do conceal the activity. They don't always report the activity. They do not always report the activity, which is sad. But I just showed you a large amount of activity at Mount Lassen. And this happens every day. It happens every day. This is nothing that doesn't happen all the time. It happens all the time. Do any of you have any questions about anything we showed you tonight? Mount Lassen's getting ready, guys. It's moving. It's moving. Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Crater Lake, and Mount Lassen volcano. They're moving. Don Patoga is joking around saying they split the inkwell. Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much. It's crazy, guys. It's crazy. Now, guys, it's something that doesn't normally happen. It's really crazy. Arnold Smith is here. Thank you, Arnold, for being here. We appreciate you here. Hardknack Farms is here. Says, I am sitting down. I can watch the chat. Just finished dinner. That's cool. I have yet to eat my dinner. My wife fixed me a good dinner last night, and I get to have leftover meatloaf. Leftover meatloaf and a baked potato. I can't wait. I mean, heat that sucker up and eat like a dog. Sage Pub is asking, Ron, how much effect would happen if it starts triggering local fault lines? If that starts triggering local fault lines, all heck could break loose. Now, why does it not do that? It's my opinion, folks, that the local fault lines aren't triggering unless there's a massive earthquake, unless there's massive activity at the volcano. Then it might trigger the local fault lines. Okay? It would trigger the local fault lines. Okay? Sage Pup, that was a great question. Nobody has ever asked that question. There would have to be a lot of activity, heavy-duty activity at the volcano, and I'm talking probably a 4.5, 5.0 earthquake. That would trigger fault lines in the area. Crazy. Jennifer asking, so do we need to duck and run? No. No, it hasn't come to that, and I don't think it will for a while. But I've been keeping an eye on this. If it ever gets to that, I will let you know, hey, you guys need to be aware that this may be ready to erupt. I will let you know. That's why we talk about it. That's why every day I take a look at it. Every day I take a look at it. I may not report this every day, which I don't. Sometimes I've reported it twice a week. Lately I haven't, because they keep doctoring the seismographs. They keep turning off the seismograph. And they doctored the seismograms even then. It's stupid. Lala is asking, can it trigger other volcanoes? Not likely. Not likely. Unless there's a volcano very close to that, which there is not. There is a small volcano just northeast of Mount Shasta. But they have not shown any activity coming from that volcano in over a year. They basically turned off the seismograph at that volcano. I don't know why, but they turned it off. They've not shown any activity at 3 different seismograms. Nothing. Don Patuka says, are you ready for Freddie? Yeah. Jennifer Prescott says, thank you so much. You just appeared out of nowhere in my feed. I don't believe in coincidence. I agree. Jennifer, if I appeared in your feed, please subscribe to our channel. Those of you that are here for the first time, please subscribe to our channel. Hit that little subscribe button. When you hit that little subscribe button, there's also another button there. There's a little bell icon, a tiny bell icon. Click on that bell icon. There'll be a drop-down menu of 3 items. Click on the word ALL, all. That should get you notified when we come on the air. But be advised, YouTube doesn't like me, for whatever reason. They're not always notifying people when we come on the air. But I'm telling you right now, I come on the air every day, Monday through Friday, between 6 and 7 p.m. every day. Sometimes it might be a little bit after that, but usually 6 to 7 p.m. every day. On weekends, we don't usually come on the air. We did this past week because there's a lot of stuff happening last weekend. On Sundays, we do a Sunday school class at about 12 to 12:30 on Sunday mornings. It's called Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. It's a wonderful Sunday school program, and I really love to invite you all to be part of that. I study my Sunday school lesson for hours, several hours prior to the program. Usually I start studying for the next Sunday school lesson on Monday, which I've done. And I'm going to continue studying the lesson until I give it to you Sunday afternoon, Eastern Time, between 12 and 12:30 Eastern Time, Sunday afternoon, for Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. On Sunday mornings, it starts off at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Mountain, and 11 p.m. Central Time. 12 to 12:30 Eastern Time on Sunday. We would love to see you here. We would really love to see you. I take great preparations to be able to speak to you on Sundays. I'm a gospel doctor and instructor. I've been teaching Sunday school for many years. Prior to that, I was a missionary for my church. So I've been studying the gospel of Jesus Christ since I was a young man. I've been teaching the gospel of Jesus Christ for many, many years. I'm not considered a scholar by any imagination, but I love Jesus Christ. I love teaching his gospel. And I would love to see you here on Sunday mornings with us That'd be great. That would be great. Now, folks, if we don't have any more questions, I want to go over here into the New Testament. I'm going to repeat a scripture that I've shared with you before. Every evening after we get through with our geological events and political information I've given you, we teach a devotional taken from the scriptures. Well, right before I teach this, though, right before I show you the scripture, I want to take you back to what we talked about early on in this broadcast. Tomorrow morning, at approximately 9 a.m. Eastern Time, in Washington, D.C., the Senate of the United States is going to be meeting. They're going to be meeting to select the next Senate Majority Leader. They're going to select the next Senate Majority Leader. Senator McConnell is retiring, finally. Now, Senator McConnell wants to hold a vote for the next Senate Majority Leader. The two men on the left-hand side are rhinos, conservative in name only. They will not support our president. They will not support the president. Now, the man on the far left, his name is John Thune. He's a Republican conservative in name only. The senator in the center is a senator from Texas, John Cornyn. The senator on the far right is Senator Rick Scott. Rick Scott is the person I recommend to be the Senate Majority Leader. Now, what I need you to do, and what we all need you to do, if you want to support the president and make sure the president has his agenda full, call your senators tonight in every city and state where you live. Call your senators tonight, the senators in your area that represent you. Call the Washington switchboard. Call the Washington government switchboard. It's a 202 number. Call that switchboard and ask to speak to your senator. No, at this point in time at night, he's not going to be there. But a representative from his office might be there. If you get a voicemail, leave a voicemail. And urge your senator to vote for Mr. Scott. Vote for him. Mr. Scott is a former governor of Florida. Mr. Scott has said that he will support the President of the United States and help to make sure that the President's agenda comes to being. Just to give you an idea, John Thune on the left-hand side, he's a corporate lobbyist. He has been a recipient of corporate lobbyists. They give him money to vote what they want him to vote on. He's been credited with blocking rail safety reforms. John Thune, over on the left-hand side, he has been credited with blocking railroad reforms after the horrific 2023 derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. John Cornyn hates the president. He would do exactly what McConnell's been doing, which is basically nothing. Basically nothing. But if you want to have Rick Scott as the Senate Majority Leader who will help make sure that President Trump's agenda gets followed, tell your senator to vote for Rick Scott as the Senate Majority Leader. That's what I've done today. I called my senator and told him to vote for Rick Scott. which I think he's going to do anyway. But we all need to have your senators vote for Rick Scott to make sure he gets elected by the Senate, okay, to be the Senate Majority Leader. Now, they're not going to broadcast the vote. They're going to hold the vote in secret, so you and I don't find out who voted for who. That way, we can hold those senators responsible for voting against the president. We want Rick Scott to be voted the Senate Majority Leader. So please do that. Please do that tonight. We'd greatly appreciate it. Now, folks, again, the scripture I want to share with you tonight comes from Philippians, chapter 1, verses 3, 4, and 5. Then I will share another scripture in chapter 4, verse 6. Going over here to chapter 1, verses 3, 4, and 5 in Philippians. This I say all to all of you. This is Paul writing to the Philippians. He says, I thank my God upon every remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine for you, all making your requests with joy, for your fellowship in the gospel from the first day into the last. A family friend of mine showed me this scripture many, many years ago. It has become my favorite scripture. Why do I share it with you? Because you folks are my friends. You folks are my family. And I love you very much. From the first day until now, I will always love all of you. Now, I want to go over to chapter 4, verse 6. Actually, it's verse 8. Actually, no, I'm going to start with verse 6. Chapter 4, verse 6. Be careful for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. In verse 8, it says, finally, brother, and you sisters here, this means you, and not just the brethren. Finally, brethren, whatsoever are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. I love that scripture. I love that scripture. I love sharing it with you. These scriptures I have marked in my scriptures because I care about you. I care about everybody. I love you guys. I love you. I hope you all have a good night and a better tomorrow. Please, guys, please call your senators. And my buddy Don Patoka, a few minutes ago, if you scroll back up through the chat, he put up the 202 number to the White House switchboard. It's 202-224-3121, the DC switchboard. 202-224-3121. Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. May God be with you this day and always. God bless you in all that you do. May God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Much love. Take care.